Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Giridhari Gopi Janavallabha Giridhari Yashodanandana Bhaja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Bhaja Janaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavallabha Giridhari Gopi Janavallabha Giridhari Yashodanandana Bhaja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Bhaja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Rukmini Dwarkadish Rukmini Dwarkadish Rukmini Dwarkadish Rukmini Dwarkadish Jaya Jagannath Jaya Jagannath Jaya Baladeva Jaya Subhadra Jaya Gauranitai 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 Jaya Gauranitai Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada Jaya 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 Prabhupada, 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 Srila Prabhupada. Gaur Premanandi, Hare Mo, Jaya Om Vishnupad, Paramahansa, Padavrajaka, Acharya, Associate of Sri Srimad, ISKCON BBT Founder, Acharya Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nitya Leela Prabhupada Om Vishnupad Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta, Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai, Nam Acharya, Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Sikha Hosh Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara, Shri Vasari Gaur Bhaktivedanta Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopana Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Brajamumi Nam Nam Ki Jai. Shri Navadvip Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Shri Nachal Jagannath Pur Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Jamuna Mai Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Shrimati Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai. The most beautiful Lordship Shri Shukvini Dwarkadish Ki Jai. Shri Shukvini Dwarkanath Ki Jai. Shri Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Ki Jai. Shri Shri Gaurnitai Ki Jai. Samabeta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Going back to home, back to Godhead Ki Jai. ISKCON Los Angeles Yatra Ki Jai. Brihad Madanga Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Jai. International Food for Life Transcendental Prasadam Distribution Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Gaur. All glories to Simple devotees. All glories to the Simple devotees. All glories to the Simple devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. Glory Srila Prabhupada. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Deving Sarasatim Yasam Tato Jayam buddhir. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, let us offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead, Lord Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and unto Srila Prabhupada, who is the translator, commentator, and our spiritual master. Nashta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naisiki. By regularly attending the Srimad Bhagavatam class and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving devotional service unto the personality of Godhead, whose worship with transcendental songs becomes established as an irrevocable fact. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're continuing our reading from the third canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 26, Fundamental Principles of Material Nature. Today's text is 61, right? Manasaś candramā jāto, buddhir, buddher, girāṁ patiḥ, ahaṅkāras tato rudraś, cittaṁ caityas bhavat, manasaś candramā jāto, buddhir, buddhir, girāṁ patiḥ, ahaṅkāras tato rudraś, cittaṁ caityas bhavat, manasaś candramā jāto, buddhir, buddhir, girāṁ patiḥ, ahaṅkāras tato rudraś, cittaṁ caityas bhavat. Manasaś candramā jāto, buddhir, buddhir, girāṁ patiḥ, ahaṅkāras tato rudraś, cittaṁ caityas bhavat. manasaś candramā jāto, buddhir, girāṁ, patiḥ, ahaṅkāras, tato, rudraś, tato, manasaś candramā jāto, buddhir, girāṁ, patiḥ, ahaṅkāras, tato, rudraś, cittaṁ, caityas, tato, bhavat. Vaishnavas. Manasaś candramā jāto, buddhir, girāṁ, patiḥ, all right, just a couple of little pronunciation guides. The anuswara, which is the M with the dot over it, is pronounced like an NG, like in the word Indian famous last name Singh. So it's like that, like an NG. And the visarga, the H with the dot under it, is he. Otherwise, if you just pronounce it pati, you don't need that H, and you just say pati, P-A-T-I. But when you see the H with the dot, it's patiḥ. Okay? Synonyms: manasaḥ, from the mind; candramāḥ, the moon; jātaḥ, appeared; buddhiḥ, intelligence; buddheḥ, from intelligence; girāṁ, patiḥ, the Lord of speech; Brahmā; ahaṅkāraḥ, false ego; tataḥ, then; rudraḥ, Lord Śiva; cittam, consciousness; caityah, the deity presiding over consciousness; tataḥ, then; bhavat, appeared. Srila Prabhupada's translation for this verse. After the mind, the moon appeared. Intelligence appeared next, and after intelligence, Lord Brahmā appeared. Then the false ego appeared, and then Lord Śiva, and after the appearance of Lord Śiva came consciousness and the deity presiding over consciousness. Please repeat: after the mind, the moon appeared. Intelligence appeared next, and after intelligence, Lord Brahmā appeared. Then the false ego appeared, and then Lord Śiva. And after the appearance of Lord Śiva came consciousness and the deity presiding over consciousness. Srila Prabhupada's purport. The moon appeared after the appearance of mind, and this indicates that the moon is the presiding deity of mind. Similarly, Lord Brahmā, appearing after intelligence, is the presiding deity of intelligence, and Lord Śiva, who appears after false ego, is the presiding deity of false ego. In other words, it is indicated that the moon god is in the mode of goodness, whereas Lord Brahmā is in the mode of passion, and Lord Śiva is in the mode of ignorance. The appearance of consciousness after the appearance of false ego indicates that from the beginning, material consciousness is under the mode of ignorance, and that one therefore has to purify himself by purifying his consciousness. This purificatory process is called Krishna consciousness. As soon as the consciousness is purified, the false ego disappears. Identification of the body with the self is called false identification or false ego. Lord Chaitanya confirms this in his Śikṣāṣṭaka. He states that the first result of chanting the mahā-mantra, Hare Kṛṣṇa, is that dirt is cleared from the consciousness or the mirror of the mind, and then at once the blazing fire of material existence is over. The blazing fire of material existence is due to false ego, but as soon as the false ego is removed, one can understand his real identity. At that point, he is actually liberated from the clutches of Maya. As soon as one is freed from the clutches of his false ego, his intelligence also becomes purified, and then his mind is always engaged upon the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Supreme Personality of Godhead appeared on the full moon day as Gaura Chandra, or the spotless transcendental moon. The material moon has spots on it, but on the transcendental moon, Gaura Chandra, there are no spots. In order to fix the purified mind in the service of the Supreme Lord, one has to worship the spotless moon, Gaura Chandra. Those who are materially passionate, or those who want to exhibit their intelligence for material advancement in life, are generally worshippers of Lord Brahmā. And persons who are in the gross ignorance of identifying with the body worship Lord Śiva. Materialists like Hiranyakashipu and Ravana are worshippers of Lord Brahmā or Lord Śiva. But Prahlad and other devotees in the service of Krishna consciousness worship the Supreme Lord, the Personality of Godhead. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shmata Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityanamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pasachadesharane Om Agyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Jaina Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Vishnang Shapitang Jaina Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandehang Shri Guru Shri Yutapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangsha Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tang Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Purjana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitangsha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namosate Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishavanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripre Vancha Kopaturubhyasya Kripa Sindhuve Evicha Patitanang Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Kṛṣṇa Hare Kṛṣṇa Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So Prabhupada is stressing, worship Gaura Chandra, Gaura Chandra, Gaura Chandra. Yes, Lord Chaitanya. His specific mission is to deliver us from all of this ignorance and passion, and even the so-called mode of goodness. Therefore it's mentioned, mahā-mantra, that he's chasing after us. We're chasing after this illusions here in this material world, but Lord Chaitanya chases after us and says, please chant Hare Kṛṣṇa, dance in ecstasy, take prasadam. So we've been going through this section, and so many speakers like Shamchandra Prabhu have given technical overview. But again, as I stated in previous class, it's not really a technical discussion at all. It's just reality that we have to accept. It's not that we can argue. No, I think intelligence came before mind, or this came. No, there's no room for argument. Lord Kapila, who is the expansion of Krishna, is telling us exactly how things happen, and we just have to accept it. Prabhupada states several times that this Vedic literature is the most voluminous, consistent, and exacting body of work. Voluminous, you can't get to the end of it. Consistent, there's not that one side says something else and another side says something else. And it's exacting. So we're getting a taste of that here in this 26th chapter. He could go on, Lord Kapila could expand this into something that would take years to read or hear. But he's given us a succinct understanding of how everything unfolds on the material platform. Now, after Shamachandra's class, I brought up the point about chronology, because he was saying that Vyasadeva wrote the Srimad Bhagavatam, and especially with this section, as a refutation to the atheistic Sankhya philosophy. So then one has to wonder, how in the world did this atheistic Kapila come before the real Kapila? In other words, Vyasadeva is giving us the conversation of the real Kapila Deva with his mother Devahuti. But if that's a refutation to the atheistic Sankhya, that means the atheistic Sankhya had to exist before that. So we have to wonder. We have to wonder about chronology. So, if Vyasadeva specifically is concentrating on refuting something, that means that thing is already out there. So then it becomes a question of chronology. Did the atheistic Sankhya come first and then the theistic Sankhya, and now he's using that to refute? Or at the time when he wrote this, but we know it was an oral tradition. So it's not that Vyasadeva just sat down and then came up with all these ideas. The Vedic literature is presented in a descending way. So first Krishna spoke to Brahma, Brahma spoke to Narada, Narada spoke to Vyas. So the knowledge was there. It's not that, some time had passed and an atheistic guy came along. So that's what we have to examine. So that's why I brought this timeline. Our Mayapur Prabhu, he's not just up there counting dollars and cents. He has put together this Vedic timeline, which is an attempt to correlate the Vedic chronology that we receive from the Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, Guru Shastra, with the Western viewpoint that we are normally familiar with. So for instance, Shamachandra said that this philosophy, atheistic Sankhya, came back into India, translated from Chinese around the 4th century, which means 1300s. So then one would have to question, and when did it go to China? When was it actually spoken? And like that. So there's some research that could be done on the chronology of things. But at the end of the day, we accept what Guru presents. And Prabhupada made that. I was just listening to a lecture. He said, yes, Shastra is there, but whatever the pure devotee says, that's also accepted without any doubts. In other words, even if you don't see it in some Shastra somewhere, if a pure devotee says such and such and such, you accept it as being factual. Not necessarily that it has to be corroborated by Shastra. But chronology in the Western theology, as well as science and sociology, every department, they are very strict about chronology. They have 2 basic divisions. They used to have, now they call it something else. What it used to be AD, which means Anno Domini, in the year of our Lord, means everything going from Christ forward, and BC, before Christ. Now they call it BCE, before the Common Era, and everything after the Common Era, CE. So, but they have their divisions, and then of course if you go into archaeology and paleontology, they have their different epochs, the Miocene, the Pliocene, the Jurassic, etc. These are just names that somebody came up with. It's not that there's some hard division. This used to be the Jurassic, and now it's not like that. People just come up with names for things as they dig into the earth. Everything is based, as Sariputta used to like to make fun of them. Their whole presentation is simply stones and bones. And we're supposed to accept everything as truth based on stones and bones. Bones are not, I was discussing recently with some devotees saying, well, how come, they haven't found such and such bones? Bones don't necessarily exist forever. There are animals who eat bones. Who can think of one? Africa. Yeah, dogs, but in general, in Africa, there's one animal that's famous for literally eating bones all the time. Hyenas. Hyenas, they have such powerful jaws that they can eat bones, literally crunch bones and swallow them. And there's a particular vulture called a lammergeier. They practically only eat bones. When there's a dead body, you see different types of vultures come. Some are very expert at tearing open the body, others are expert. And the lammergeiers, they wait till all the other vultures are done and leave the bones, and then they pick them up, they go high up in the sky, they drop them, and they eat the marrow. They break the bones that way. So the fact that so many bones are not in the historical record doesn't mean that they weren't there at some point. Hyenas, other animals, are famous for digging things up. So you could have a pile of bones somewhere for quite a while, and then some animal comes along, discovers them, digs them up, and eats them. So you can't trust stones and bones as your basis of your philosophy or science or whatever. It's just not sensible, not practical. But what Lord Kapila Deva is giving us here is not like that. It's not about archaeology, paleontology. This is factual. How does he know? Because he's the Supreme Lord. He knows exactly how his material nature is set up, how it unfolds, what the actions and reactions are. So we just have to hear and come to the conclusion, as is being stressed in today's purport, you're not this body. This body is made of bones and flesh and skin, and you have nothing to do with that. Nothing to do with that. So why is it that we're, even after years of practicing some kind of yoga, either bhakti yoga or Ashtanga yoga, still have that sense of, this is me, this... Why do we have that? It just shows how powerful the Lord's illusory energy is. So powerful that even after years of yoga practice, again, whichever, there's so many different types of yoga, one can still be in the illusion that this is me. And therefore the Vedic recommendation is that at the end of life, the body be burned. And generally, someone in the family, generally the eldest son, goes to the crematorium and takes a heavy stick and cracks open the skull of the father or whoever has died. In the West, they would go, ah! But it's twofold, to break that attachment. This is not my father. This body lying here is not my father. And we all say, my father is gone, my mother is gone. And Prabhupada used to say, what do you mean gone? That body you used to call father or mother is lying there on the bed. Why don't you still call a father or mother? Why do you say, my father is gone, my mother is gone? So to help to break that remaining illusion, they would crack the skull, and also it helps to burn the brain matter. Otherwise, if the skull is not broken, the fire doesn't get in there and something can be left. So, twofold purpose. Again, those who are completely in bodily consciousness, they would be aghast. Oh my God, because their misunderstanding is that at some point in time, those bones and flesh and everything will be resurrected, will come back to life. So my argument to them has always been, I always ask, I always never believed that. Even being raised in the Judeo-Christian tradition, it didn't make sense to me. Which, if you are resurrected, so if your grandma, like in my case, my grandma died at 93, I think, my mother's mother. So if she's resurrected, is she coming back in that same aged body? Who would want to do that? Or if somebody dies a few breaths after coming out of the womb, that infant comes out of the womb, dies, they're going to be resurrected in that infant body. So it doesn't make sense. Which body would you want to be? Or would you want to be the body that you left when you died? It doesn't make sense. So this whole presentation, Vedic presentation, is to bring us to this point of self-realization, realizing the self as being different from the body. And Bhakti Yoga, in this age especially, has been simplified to the point of, if you follow Lord Chaitanya, after he catches you, Mayamrigam Daita Ipsida Anvadava. This is in 11th canto, Mahapurusha presentation. We're chasing after the illusion of happiness in this material world. We're chasing after other bodies, even though we all have a body. We know exactly what this body is, what it goes through, the pains, and still we chase after some other body looking for pleasure. So Lord Chaitanya says, stop. Just like Naikatma is fond of singing this song in the morning now, Jeev Jago. Jeev Jago, wake up. Stop sleeping on the lap of the witch of, Maya. Wake up. Stop chasing after illusion. There is no happiness here. I was listening to a lecture recently, Prabhupada was saying, Krishna set up this place, and he tells you, this is how I set it up. Dukkhalayam ashashvatam. It's miserable and it's temporary. But still, we don't want to listen to the creator, the person who knows exactly what's going on. No, we still think we're going to find some happiness here. Just accumulate enough money, keep the body fit enough, associate with other nice bodies, all these formulas we come up with, which are doomed to failure. So the Sankhya philosophy is presented so we can see clearly how the material elements unfold, how consciousness unfolds, how material consciousness, because consciousness is always there. Consciousness is an innate part of the living entity. You can't separate. But because we are subordinate living entities, we can be placed in such a mode of existence that we don't even remember or know that we're conscious. That's called susupti. There's waking consciousness, sleeping consciousness, and this susupti, which is unconsciousness. The example that some of us have experienced, myself included, is when you get a general anesthetic. You're still alive, but you're completely unconscious. The doctor's cutting the body, you don't feel it. I think I told a story. I had a hernia operation done while I was traveling in Bosnia once. And I guess the nurse didn't apply the anesthetic properly, because when the guy cut, I felt it. I said, I feel that. He said, oh, you want some more? I said, no, just go ahead and finish it. So you can be put into such a state where you don't even know you're existing. And that's what happens at the end of the creation. When Lord Brahmā's life is over, the entire material existence, all of these things get wound up back into the body of Mahavishnu. And as a young devotee, I remember asking this question. We say Krishna is the Supreme Pure, is the Supreme Purifier. How is it that the living entity can be withdrawn into the body of Mahavishnu and then come out again still contaminated? It didn't make sense to me that the Lord is the Supreme Pure being, which means he's the Supreme Purifier. Param Brahma, Param Dhamma, Pavitram, Idam Uttamam. He purifies everything. Anything, just like we say, anyone who comes in contact with Krishna will become pure. So how is it that the living entities who have not been liberated at the end of the creation, they get withdrawn into the body of Mahavishnu and they remain impure? And the answer finally was given that it's because the Lord does not interfere with your minute independence. If you leave this creation, if you're still contaminated at that point, meaning that you have material desires, you want to be this, you want to be that, you want to do this, do that, the Lord doesn't interfere with that. You stay in this susupti state, deep sleep, unconscious, for billions of years. And then when the creation is again formed, you come out through this process, you're impregnated into the womb of the material energy in a particular form to continue to pick up again those desires wherever you left off. So I will leave this up here for a few minutes after class. This is just Mayapur gave this to me to check over, and very well done. I didn't find any mistakes in there. But he said the final thing is going to be, this is like maybe 2/3 size. He's going to make a big version in color, and I don't know where he's going to display it, but a lot of research went into it, very nicely done. But again, our final take is that whatever is stated in the Bhagavatam by Vyasadeva, we accept. We're not going to argue about whether this came before that. It's useless. What experience do we have to argue with anything that's stated in the Bhagavatam? But we should inquire if we have doubts. Prabhupada said, I don't want blind followers, but at the same time, absurd inquiries are not welcome. In other words, don't think up some weird question like foolish people say. You say God can do anything. Yes. Can he create a stone so heavy that he can't pick it up? And we say yes, but the next moment he can pick it up. It's his prerogative. So we don't try to come up with silly questions, but proper questions are welcome. So we'll stop here if there are any questions, comments. Yes? The green light on the bottom has to be on, and then the switch on top has to be in the green position, not the red position. It's the mic. Something's wrong with this mic. Or I can repeat the question rather than going back and forth. Just say the question, I'll repeat it for everybody.
You mentioned that Krishna does not interfere. You mentioned that Krishna does not interfere with the minute independence of living entity, and also if we have some desires, we want this or this. So what chances? Because often devotees speak, we can go back to Godhead in this lifetime. So what chances we have to go back to Godhead if we still have like different kind of desires, and Krishna does not forces us, you go back to Godhead. If even we, for example, deserve, we got a lot of, we did many service or distributed many books, and we get a lot of mercy, but if we still have desires, what chances are to go back to God in this state?
Okay, good question. Because you have to voluntarily change your desire. Just like as you grow up in this lifetime, I'm sure there are instances, things that you used to like, which you don't like anymore. Or things that you didn't like, which you like now. Like many children are growing up, the parents have to force them, eat broccoli, it's good for you. And then they get to be adult and they like broccoli. I love broccoli. So it's like that. You voluntarily change your desire based on the circumstances that you go through. So that's why it's stated, Krishna doesn't interfere. He even says in the Bhagavad Gita, don't disturb those who are not inclined. But Prabhupada explains that the pure devotees, knowing the heart of the Lord, they will come and disturb you. They will send out chanting parties to Santa Monica or wherever. You're walking down the street, you're in Maya, and all of a sudden you hear Hare Kṛṣṇa. So the pure devotees take on the task of disturbing and waking up Jeev Jago, the sleeping souls, whereas the Lord himself may not directly interfere. See the point? You'll be given an opportunity by generally the agency of Krishna's devotee. Guru Krishna Prasad. Notice Guru is mentioned first. Guru Krishna Prasade Pai. Because when the Guru goes out and preaches, gives the mercy of Krishna, and you accept that, then Krishna gives his mercy. Yes, you have accepted the teachings of my pure devotee, you have accepted the blessings of my devotee, therefore I give you my blessing. So generally, but Krishna is Swarat. That's a general statement that he doesn't interfere. He's not bound by that. He can interfere if he wants to. That's what it means to be God. He's Swarat, completely independent. But the general thing is, he has created this material world, this playground, for us to come and do what we want to do, and he doesn't interfere. But you get your karma. And that reminds me, there's one thing I want to read. There's a verse that I recite many times. It's from the 10th canto, chapter 49. Eka prasuyate jantu, eka esha praliyate. Eka onubungte sukritam. Eka esha not chaduskritam. It says that every creature, every being is born alone, dies alone, and alone has to enjoy or suffer the reactions, good or bad, to the deeds that they perform. So this is a conversation Akrura is having with Dhritarashtra. And he says that verse to him. And I just wanted to read, because I say that one so often, but the preceding verse and the one after that is also important. And an interesting thing about that chapter is it's one of the few chapters, maybe the only one, I can't think of another one, where the chapter title in Krishna book is different from what's in the 10th canto. In the Krishna book, that chapter is entitled Ill-Motivated Dhritarashtra. But in the 10th canto, it's titled Akrura's Mission to Hastinapur. Different title between the two. So I thought that interesting. But, so, the verse I just recited is text 21. So this is 10:49:20, the verse before it, which says, Neha chatyanta sangvashak kasyachit kena chitsaha rajan svena pidehena kim ujayat majadibihi. And translation, in this world, no one has any permanent relationship with anyone else, O king. We cannot stay forever, even with our own body. What to speak of our wife, children, and the rest. So again, Akrura is instructing Dhritarashtra. Okay, and then the one that I just recited, Eka Pasuyate Jantur. Every creature is born alone, dies alone, and alone one experiences the just rewards of his good and evil deeds. And then the one after that, 22, Andarmo pachitang vittang harantyaneo pamerasa. Sambojaniya padeshaya jalaniva jalokasaha. In the guise of their dependents, strangers steal the sinfully acquired wealth of a foolish man, just as the offspring of a fish drink up the water that sustains the fish. So it goes on. It's a nice section to read, because it explains again how we are, even in spite of Akrura's giving him the mercy and telling him what to do and what not to do. Don't steal the kingdom from the Pandavas. By his own free will. And he explains, if you read that. Dhritarashtra says, I know Krishna is God, and I know you're giving good advice, but I'm too attached, so I'm going to continue doing what I want to do. So you have that free will, and that Krishna doesn't interfere. Krishna didn't come to Dhritarashtra, you stupid old man, wake up. He sent his devotee, Akrura, to tell him the truth. He didn't want to hear it. So okay, Krishna says, okay, fine, let's go fight then. That's what you want? You want to try to take the kingdom illegally? you'll die that way. So that free will is always there for us. Krishna generally doesn't interfere. He sends his devotee to do the interference, but he can interfere if he wants to. Okay, it's, all right, one more. It's Rabindranath's breakfast morning. That's why so many devotees are not here. But, okay. Actually, this one. Yeah. All right.
Okay, yeah, so regarding this, this timeline for atheistic Vyasa, no, I'm sorry, atheistic Kapila. Yeah, atheistic Kapila, yeah, I'm sorry for that. Yeah. So, yeah, I didn't get a chance to look into the exact timeline, but something came to my mind, I was just thinking. So, the thing is, atheistic Kapila doesn't need to exist, or atheistic Kapila philosophy doesn't need to exist when Kapila was speaking. I mean, that was contradicting, right? I mean, it should exist something later, right? So what came to my mind is that, Bhagavatam is basically, we have Shruti and Smriti. It actually comes under the Smriti section because it's a Purana. So this Purana was, and this context, this Purana, what we have currently, is from Sukadeva Goswami when he was speaking, right? So this atheistic Sankhya philosophy just need to exist when Sukadeva Goswami was speaking. Then that criteria is met, because in the first canto also it is said that you need to know 6 philosophies to speak that. That means that 6 philosophies were at least existing when Sukadeva Goswami was speaking. Whether it existed during actual Kapila was speaking, it doesn't have to. And the author has some flexibility, especially doing Smritis, because he can use a Smriti to defeat the existing philosophies. So that existing philosophy, if it exists during Sukadeva Goswami, that is well and enough, because before Bhagavatam, Brahma Sutras was written, and Bhagavatam came after Brahma Sutras. And already Vyasa refuted the atheistic Sankhya philosophy in Brahma Sutras. So, and Bhagavatam came immediately after that. So that timeline is matching Brahma Sutras and Bhagavatam. So as long as atheistic Kapila is existing that time, that fits with the description.
Yeah, no, that's obvious. That's why I said we need to, because obviously Vyasadeva being Trikalagya, he could be writing something to refute something that comes in the future. But for those of us, like I said, in the West, they are very much chronology bound. They want to see this came before that, that came before that, that came before that. So when we're presenting to a general audience, we have to make sure that we present in such a way that it's clear. If we're saying that Vyasadeva, because he's Trikalagya and he knew in advance that these philosophies would come up later on, then we should present it like that. But just to make a street presentation, this is a refutation of that, it makes it seem like what you're refuting came before. You see? That was my point. Because generally when you go out and refute something, like if, the atheists say something nowadays, everything is just reduced to matter, and that philosophy exists and now we're refuting it. But so generally when you speak of refutation, that's what comes to mind. You're refuting something that exists. But when we say Vyasadeva wrote the Srimad Bhagavatam as a refutation to atheistic Sankhya philosophy, it makes it sound like it was existing prior, and now he's refuting it. But obviously it doesn't have to be that way. He's Trikalagya, whatever he writes is for all times. And he knows what's coming in the future, as evidenced by the Bhagavatam itself. You read the 12th canto, it's already saying what's coming in the future. So, but I just wanted that to be clear, because a lot of scholars would immediately say, they try to refute whatever we say anyway, but when we make a presentation, it should be clear. This is what we're saying, that Vyasadeva knows all the philosophies that are current and coming in the future. So he's writing his books in such a way that they will refute any discrepancy that will arise. Okay, Granth Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.